President Bola Tinubu appoints Oluwatosin Ajayi as the new Director General of the Department of State Services, as Ambassador Mohammed takes charge as the DG of the National Intelligence Services Agency. Court of Appeal voiced judgment of the lower court ordering participation of 381 aggrieved delegates in a dual governorship election primary for lack of jurisdiction, maintaining it's a party matter. Hello and welcome to Politics Today, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's Commercial Nerve Center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma, sitting in for Sheun Okimbaloye. Now let's begin with the things that we've been tracking today. And we can tell you that today there was a change of guard in leadership for the National Intelligence Agency, NIA, and the Department of State Services, that's the DSS. This follows President Bola Tinubu's approval for Ambassador Mohammed to be the director, or the new director of the NIA, and Mr. Adeola Oluwatosin Ajayi as the new Director General of the DSS after the resignation of their predecessors. Ambassador Mohammed has had a career in foreign services since joining the NIA in 1995. He had served in various roles, culminating in his promotion to the rank of a director and his subsequent appointment as the head of the Nigerian mission to Libya. On the other hand, the new DSS Director General, Mr. Adeola Ajayi, rose through the ranks, attaining his current post of Assistant Director General of the service. He had at various times served as State Director in Bauchi, Enugu, Bayelsa, Rivers, and Kogi states. We can also tell you that the president told them to discharge their duties to the best of their ability. But besides some of the things coming in from the president here as far as appointments are concerned, we can tell you also that the National Association of Resident Doctors, NAD, has started a 7-day warning strike across all its centers nationwide. The resident doctor strike is a clamor for the release of their kidnapped colleague, Dr. Ganiat Pupula, who has been in captivity for over 8 months. NAD President Dr. Dele Abdullahi, who said this in a statement, noted that the strike will begin. It began actually at about 12 a.m. today. Abdullahi disclosed that the decision was made during their virtual emergency National Executive Council meeting held on Sunday, August the 25th. So that is as far as medical doctors are concerned. They want insecurity to be tackled headlong as soon as possible. But there are some great news as well, besides the strike, that Nigeria's gross domestic product has grown by 3.19% in the second quarter of 2024. It's said to be driven largely by the services sector. According to the GDP released by the National Bureau of Statistics, the growth rate is higher than 2.51% recorded. That's in the second quarter of 2023 and higher than 2.98% recorded in the first quarter of 2024. The report also indicates that Q2, that is the second quarter of GDP performance, was driven by services sector, which grew by 3.79% and contributed about 58.76% to the total GDP basket. It shows that the agricultural sector experienced modest growth, expanding just about 1.41%, slightly down from the initial 1.50% growth recorded in Q2 of 2023. So lots of things. But let's also tell you that we've been tracking what's been going on in the courts, as you saw in the headlines. The appeal courts sitting in Abuja has overturned the judgment of the Federal High Court, which ordered the People's Democratic Party to allow the participation of 381 ad hoc delegates in the February primary election that produced Mr. Asue Ighodalo as a candidate of the party in September 2021 for the September 2021 election in Edo State. A 3-member panel of the appellate court set aside the judgment of Justice Inyekwo delivered on the 4th of July, or July the 4th, on the grounds that the trial court lacks jurisdiction to entertain the suit in the first place of the aggrieved delegates having lacked the necessary legal rights to initiate the suit. In a unanimous decision, the court held that it cannot interfere with how the PDP selects its candidate for the September 21 governorship election. There was also a similar suit filed by 8 other delegates. The Court of Appeal held that a political party is like a club, and members who join such parties should abide by the rules, and having freely joined the party, the court cannot intervene in the internal issues of that party. The court further held that candidates who do not participate in an election actually lack the local standard to challenge the outcome of the election, and as such, ad hoc delegate lack the local standard to challenge the outcome of the PDP primary in that election. So that will be the big issue. Mr. Asue Ighodalo, the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party in Edo State, will be my first guest. Another governorship candidate, but in an election that has passed, will join me afterward. But that will come just after your political roundup story. So stay around. It's going to be an interesting one.
The All Progressives Congress APC in Edo State has vowed to investigate Governor Godwin Obaseki's administration if elected into office in the September 21st governorship election. At the party's campaign rally in Oredo local government area of the state, the APC governorship candidate, Mr. Monday Okpebolo, says securing the state will be a major project if elected as governor of the state.
Yeah, teachers, don't worry about teachers. We employ 5,000 teachers very soon.
In River State, the Action People's Party has raised concerns about the deteriorating state of the nation, urging citizens to take a more active role in politics to address the country's pressing challenges. At a meeting in Port Harcourt, the state capital, the national chairman of the party, Mr. Uchenna Nnadi, expressed dissatisfaction with the current state of the nation, lamenting the increase in economic difficulties, security challenges, and lack of internal democracy and respect for the rule of law.
I believe by the special grace of God, we will show our strength collectively as we are seated here on October 5th, 2024, in the forthcoming local government election.
The Austin Agada-led All Progressives Congress APC in Benue State has nominated 23 chairmanship and 276 councillorship candidates for the forthcoming local government election scheduled for October 5th in the state. The exercise took place in all the world headquarters across the 23 local government areas on Saturday, August 24th, 2024. In a statement on Monday in Abuja, the Agada faction says the primary election was conducted through consensus affirmations in most local government and council wards. One of those who participated, Honorable Samuel Asuku, attributed the success of the party's primary election to the commitment of stakeholders in the local government area. A political group under the aegis of the Nigerian First policy is advocating for the creation of constitutional roles for the office of the country's First Lady and state governors who will formalize their positions and define their responsibilities and powers. At a news conference in Kaduna, the national coordinator of the group, Jonah Burnett, says creating constitutional roles for the office of the wife of the president and wives of state governors will potentially increase the influence and impact of the office in Nigerian politics, as well as women and children development.
The National Assembly to introduce a bill that should officially and constitutionally acknowledge the office of the First Lady of the Federal Republic, as well as ladies of each state and local government.
Welcome back. So those are the stories we've been tracking for you across the politics. So let's get to the very conversation for the day. And that has to do with Edo politics. We're being joined in the program by the governorship candidate of the PDP in the forthcoming elections in September, Mr. Asue Ighodalo. He joins us from Benin City, the Edo State capital. Mr. Ighodalo, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me, Jeffrey. How are you? It's been a while.
I'm pretty well. I'm sure you must be smiling now because perhaps amongst the candidates that we've been following, your case appears to be one of the most litigated, and sometimes we're even losing track of which case is which one and all that. So maybe your first reaction as to how you see this particular judgment from the Court of Appeal in your favor.
The Court of Appeal, I think, I believe it's done a fantastic job staying on the legal and factual issues. And it's affirmed our candidacy. There were 5 appeals heard today, and we won all the 5 appeals. But about being happy, I'm not quite sure that it's happy. I'll say that I'm relieved in that the distraction goes away, and we can fully focus on continuing our campaign without the distraction. I'd rather that all my colleagues who have taken out this action come back and join hands together with me for us to drive every way to win this election. That's what I prefer. So it's not about being happy. I think it's the distraction, the relief of taking away that distraction. Yes, I have that. But I'd be truly happy if all of my colleagues that's gone to court at this stage come back together to the party. I've always been an advocate of all of us coming together to work for the betterment of the party. And I believe that's the party that can deliver the good things of life and remove the suffering of our people. And if we all join hands together, and we work together for that party, it will be a greater party, because all of the aspirants that have gone to court, particularly, they're all good people in their own right. And so I would hate to see them leave the party and hate to see them not participate with us in winning this election. So, I won't call it happy. I'll call it relieved. I'll be happy when my colleagues come back into the party fully and join us in getting ready for this election over the next 26 days.
Now you're technically going to be a strong party man, because some have said, Asue Ighodalo is a political neophyte, is a boardroom guru, and now you are getting some of the heat that comes within this space they call politics. So there are a few things I want to get your thoughts on, which is, I remember Al Gore, the former vice president, had said that, look, he agrees, he accepts, doesn't mean he agrees with the outcome of a particular election result. That was what he said. Now, I'm saying that to say that one of the things we've found out when it comes to election and adjudication such as this, the court consistently says it's a party matter. Now that you are now a politician, as it were, are you worried that things like this could actually create a lacuna for those with the right war chest to begin to control what happens in a party at the end of the day, possibly disenfranchising those who wanted to be part of it without necessarily speaking against what the Court of Appeal has said?
No. Again, like the court said, a party is a club. You go in there voluntarily, and it has its rules. And if you abide by the rules of the party, then there won't be a problem. If you don't abide by the rules, then the law also gives you the ability to seek redress. If you read the judgments properly, most of them, I've received a summary from the lawyers. The issue really is, the rules said you need to exhaust certain internal party mechanisms for redress. So I don't think so. I think that, yes, that those who fear that people who have this large war chest can influence unduly. But in a state like Edo State, honestly, our people are truly enlightened. People are politically sophisticated. Historically, it's never the big war chests that win elections in Edo State. So even if people dominated their parties through that process and they didn't have a tangible message to sell to the people of the state, then they won't go very far. But direct answer to your question, no. I don't think it's the war chest. Many people in the parties also understand the process and the rules, and truly want good for their party, and they want the best candidate for their party. So it's not necessarily the person that has that big war chest. And I think things are changing, things are improving, and we'll see a lot more improvement over time.
All right, Mr. Ighodalo, we're going to explore things that has to do with your program or your manifesto, as it were. But I want to get the politics out of the way. We can hazard a bit of what they call in mathematics, some level of extrapolation, given the history we've seen. We've seen the Governor Godwin Obaseki fall out with former Governor Adams Oshiomhole. We've also seen Governor Godwin Obaseki fall out with Nyesom Wike. I mean Governor Obaseki and Philip Shaibu. And now we've seen Philip Shaibu falling out with Governor Godwin Obaseki. That's why I use the word extrapolation. We don't know what will happen between you and him. But are you going to be a man of your own if you win this election and get into office? And how do you intend to navigate this political space that can become a real distraction? Look at what is going on in River State, for instance.
Thank you very much. Yes, definitely. The answer to that question, direct answer, is that definitely I'll be a man of my own. I've been a man of my own since I was 18 years old. I was brought up by my parents to take my own decisions by myself. And I've gone through life having done a number of things. And yes, my answer is I've always been a man of my own. I will always be a man of my own. That does not mean I will not take advice from other people who've gone through similar experiences. It's important that I say that, because it's only a person that's a bit foolish, that will go through certain endeavors and certain work types without taking advice. Through my life, I've had mentors. I've had great mentors as I was growing up in my profession, as I was doing whichever of the things I did, either as a lawyer, either as a business person, in the boardroom. I've always sought the advice of people that I looked up to, or I valued, or I looked at their capacity and their performances. So I will do so all the same. Even in my political career so far, I've conferred with different people across the country. I've conferred definitely with the political leaders in the state, across all parties, many in the PDP, some in other parties in the state. I've talked to some of my friends who were governors years ago, who worked in the presidency years ago. I've talked to people who have been presidents and vice presidents. So I'll always seek advice so that I can avoid the mistakes that many made. You know, it's important. But definitely, of course, I've been my own man since I was 18, and nothing's going to change. Not because I'm governor or anything else that I am. And I'll pray to God for guidance. My family will be around me, and they'll make sure that I stay on the straight and narrow. Definitely, my wife wouldn't spare me. Neither would my daughter or my brother or my sister. You know, so yeah, I'm my own man. I've always been. I've headed companies, multinationals. I built my own law firm. You know, so it's just going to be another day in the office. But I will take good advice from anybody that can give me good advice and can help me execute my work much better.
All right, Mr. Ighodalo, let's move on now. So let me piggyback on a few things. I know I used to watch some epics, and they said the promiscuity of the Roman mob. But our situation is not that. Ours is the multi-shades of expectation of the people. So if I ask you a straight question, do you really understand the language of the Edo people? I'm not saying literal language. And what are you telling them as a candidate that, look, I understand what you're saying, and I can fix this?
Let me put it differently for you slightly. I understand what you're feeling. I understand what you're saying. I understand what's happening to you. Yes, I do. I've been around the whole state, 192 wards, the 18 local governments. I've been around the state. I've been around the state nearly 1.5 times now. Because of the protests, I haven't completed the second round. You know, and I talk to the people. I talk to high and low. I'm in the markets. I'm in the farms. I'm in the villages. I'm in the big cities. I'm in the malls. You know, I'm in people's houses. I knock on people's doors at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. You know, I feel the people. I feel their pain. I feel the lack. I feel the disconsonance that a lot of them feel and the pain they feel. Many don't have food. I was talking to a woman in Auchi Market some time ago. She told me that if she eats on Tuesday, then it's probably Thursday before her next full meal, because she has to make sure her kids can go to school. You know, I went to see the victims of the Jatu Market tree. About 4 big trees fell around the Jatu Market a few months ago, killing a number of women and children in the market, many going into hospital. I went around every hospital to see all of the patients that were alive, you know, and I could feel the pain. Many of them couldn't even pay for their medical services, you know. So people can't pay for food, people can't pay for medical services, people can't pay for their kids to go to school, people can't get their goods into the market, people can't even get their goods processed, you know, people can't farm again because they're afraid of going too far away from their homestead to farm. So I feel the people, I feel the pain of the people. I feel the suffering of the people. And part of why I'm in this is to ensure that I work hard to ameliorate the suffering and the pain of the people of Edo State. You know, that's why I'm here. You know, and I hope that I'll give it everything I have. Working together with my deputy Osarodion, we will focus on ensuring that we brighten the faces of the people of Edo State. We improve the lives of the people of Edo State. We improve Edo State. We make Edo State a good and secure place to live and to work and to play and to go to school. You know, so yes, I feel the Edo State people. I understand their pain, and I hear them.
All right, Mr. Ighodalo, I know you are credited to saying, I'm going to read it, the people are truly suffering and the people can't eat. there's a lot not going right at the moment. That sounds like an indictment on the leadership of Godwin Obaseki. Is that what you were trying to say, or you were trying to say something different?
Jeffrey, no, that's not what I was saying.
So what were you
saying? If you look at the sources of the kind of intense suffering that we're feeling in Nigeria, you'll trace it back to certain policies that were not well thought through or that went awry. So early last year, 2023, there was this currency change policy. And, it pauperized Nigerians, pauperized nearly every Nigerian. And we haven't recovered from that. Those who earn daily labor, those who had little cash in the bank, even those who had big cash in the bank, so it pauperized Nigerians. And then look at the collapse of our currency. Look at the removal of the fuel subsidy. Look at insecurity nationally. Those are the issues that have caused the pain that have trickled down to the people in every nook and cranny of Nigeria. And these things have to be reversed. All we're saying is that in Edo State, we will cocoon ourselves and we will reverse this in our state and improve the lives of our people. And we're hoping that when we do this, we'll be able, by peer pressure or peer lift or peer push, help other states in this direction. So that's what we're concerned about now, because we cannot continue falling into the problems we fall into because of other people's ill-thought policies. And so we need to cocoon ourselves. And that's my philosophy for Edo State. So that's what I meant, and by God's grace, we'll do it. We're the popular candidate at the polls. And if we continue at the rate we're going, and there's no reason why we won't, in the next 26 days, we're going to work even harder than we've worked in the last few months. We will win the elections, and we will then be able to effect and implement these policies that we have in place to cocoon our state, to create this oasis regardless of what's happening around us. And it's doable. It's happened in all the federal structured countries before, and we can do it, and we will do it. We have the capability, we have the resources, we have the human resources, mineral resources, we have the soil types, we're strategically located in Nigeria. People say we're the heartbeat. We're not just the heartbeat. We're strategically located as a logistics center in the country. So we'll roll up our sleeves and we'll work really hard. We have potentialities for tourism. Even if you just look at our people in the diaspora, those in the diaspora, if they come home just twice on holiday, and each time they come home, they spend $2,000 in Edo State, that reflects the economy automatically. And so we have a lot of potentiality in the state, which we will use to cocoon ourselves, improve our lives, and then break through and help any others that want to participate in the goodness and prosperity that we'll create. So that's what I was saying.
All right, Mr. Ighodalo, before we get to the election day proper ahead of that, I'm taking a look at your manifesto. I don't know whether this is a restructured one or the main one or the previous one, but there's a lot of people you're trying to reach as much as you can, well articulated, but the question about how at the end of the day. And one of the things we can almost tell you for free is that when you're looking from outside in, it looks easy, but inside out, maybe a different kettle of fish. But I think you've captured it in 5 pillars. Tell us why you prioritize what you prioritize as your pillars ahead of this election, and whether the Edo people are buying in. Because this is what we found out sometimes. People come with great ideas, but that's not what the people need. The people may need water. You want to build them roads. The people may need electricity. You want to give them water. That's exactly my question. How did you come to prioritize? Maybe the first 2, and then we'll go to other issues.
Yeah, Jeffrey, thank you. Before we sat down to start crafting our manifesto, we'd gone around the state. That's why my manifesto came maybe about 1.5, 2 months ago. We'd gone around the state, we talked to people, we'd seen people's pain points, we'd seen what the issues were. So we didn't just sit down in a room and bring a few people to come and work with me to craft the manifesto. No, we went around, we took notes, we talked to people in the markets, I told you, went to the villages, we looked around the state, we saw the problem points, no water in some places, no road in some places, or bad roads in some places. For instance, you go there, you see they have a lot of pineapples, but the pineapples can't get to the markets. Even those pineapples that get to the markets rot very quickly. We saw the problem points, and then we went back and sat through many weeks of thinking, okay, how do we resolve the issues in Edo State? How do we ensure that we move Edo State from where it is into the first world as quickly as possible? So it's not what we want to give the people. It's what we know that the people want us to give them. They want to be well governed. They want to remove the suffering from the people. And so that's the key. People want to be able to afford 3 square meals a day. People want to have a secure environment. People want to live a good life. So we took back and then we started working forward. And that's how we crafted the manifesto that we've presented. 5 pillars. We discovered that what was most important to people was security. And that's how we came about security as our number 1 pillar, if you look at it. So people wanted to be safe. People were worried they couldn't step out. And it's a perception, because luckily in the last few years, I have seen Edo State has become much safer through the work of the current government. But still, there's still those gaps. And we haven't kind of wiped away all the perception. So people want to be safe. People don't want to be looking over their shoulders every time. People still complain that they're not quite sure that they can go to the farms far away from the homestead. So, and even if you look at the issue of tourism and some of our guys in the diaspora not coming home as often as they did, it had to do with them having this perception that they may not be as safe as they would like to be. So that was the number 1 thing. Number 2 thing was people's well-being. People wanted to have money in their pockets. People wanted to be able to live well, eat well, go to good schools. Their kids go to good schools. Their kids receive first-class education. People wanted to be sure that if they fell ill, they could go into hospital and get good treatment in good time. Those were people's concerns. People wanted to know that if they went to school and they did well, they could come out and they would get jobs. So people's well-being was important to us.
Asue Ighodalo, if I may butt in, my apologies. If I may butt in for a moment, there's hardly anything you will reel out that perhaps others have not said. So this is my straight question, because you look like a very audacious gentleman. So I'll give you an opportunity to answer audaciously, which is, if you talk about security, I'm sure Godwin Obaseki, the governor of the state, had this as a big plan. And he had come a few days ago to say there has been some improvement. But he had also come to say, look, cultism and all of that has been a problem. So my question to you is, he had security as a priority, perhaps. You have security as a priority. He has missed out on something. He didn't do something right. What are you going to do differently that will come back to say, Edo is the safest state to live in say 4 years?
I think he's done a lot right, because I've seen the massive improvements in security in the state, and I've had the opportunity to see some of the security apparatus that they have. But let me answer you directly, and that's simply this. We're going to do everything possible to raise technological capability, to raise training capability, and to raise equipment capability to ensure that our state is secure. We have it divided: immediate term, short term, medium term, and long term. In the long term, which many of us hadn't thought through before, we have to go back to family values. Some of the things that happen, that some of the people that have caused the lack of security environment, some of the things they do. If you come from a good home, you're well brought up, you'd never do things like that. So we look at this immediate term, short term, medium term, long term. Improve security, improve training, look at world-class technology. In 2024, there are things that shouldn't happen, that you should not be able to immediately cotton on to. Never. Look at first-class equipment, drones, heat-seeking drones, different kinds of technology. Be able to have cameras in as many places as possible, have the situation rooms, have quick reaction time, have the right vehicles, even if it's necessary, and helicopter patrols. It's done. It's been done. There was a time when I think it was Cross River State in Nigeria. It was truly a safe state. And if you go out of Nigeria to different countries, you find many truly safe states. There are states where the level of crime is nearly not more than 5%. So we can get Edo State to that level.
All right.
We know all the entry points into the state, or 5 or 6 entry points into the state, and we cover those entry points. And we also ensure that if anything happens, we have the capabilities to identify what happened, where it happened, when it happened, and we trace.
All right, so let's get to what is, but maybe perhaps we'll come to some of the things, including fiscal performance and fiscal policies if we have the time. But let's talk about that election. One of the feelers we got initially was other parties complaining that members of your party were demolishing their posters and all of that billboard. But now the PDP is complaining and saying that, look, it appears that this election is not going to be against the APC or the Labour Party or other parties. It's also going to be against the Nigerian police. What exactly is going on? What are you experiencing that is a bit of a worry for you as a political party? And what is the government saying?
Thank you very much, Geoffrey. But very quickly, as regards the billboards, we had many more billboards destroyed. We just didn't complain. We just got along with it. We went back and we fixed our billboards. But what we're truly complaining about today is the level of intimidation against the People's Democratic Party that we see. We wake up some mornings and we just see policemen that we know nothing about. They enter into houses of our supporters, they pick them up and they whisk them away. We then find out later that they've been taken to Abuja, and we don't know exactly what's going on. On the 18th of July, every Nigerian saw what happened in Benin City on TV. People were gun-wielding thugs were running amok all over Edo State. And we saw them on TV. We knew who they were. We saw their faces. We saw those who were carrying AK-47s. But then what happened? Next few days, the police were running after members of our party, arresting members of our party, intimidating members of our party. So we have a situation where the thugs of one party are trying to intimidate us. We have a situation where the police force appears to be siding with those who are trying to intimidate us. And so there's a problem. There's a problem that we feel very particular about. We feel very worried. What we're relying on is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has promised a free and fair election, and we believe him. But what we're seeing today is causing us grievous alarm, and we're beginning to get seriously worried that we're going into this election with at least one hand tied behind our back, and with the field not being level, with the field being totally unlevel. And we worry very much about that. We've had one of our guys, Kingsley Osam, he's been arrested. They whisked him away from his house in Nairobi, a councillor. Nobody has said anything about it. Nobody has charged him to court. Nobody has done anything. We just know he's been arrested in Abuja and he's been taken to Abuja, and a few of our guys too. And the intimidation is much. So what we require is that, everybody goes by the rules. The security agencies should please be neutral so as to ensure that we all feel safe and secure in this environment. And we want all our supporters to come out to vote on election day, because the president has assured all of us that he'll create a level playing field and we'll all be secure. So we'll hold the word.
All right, absolutely. Mr. Ighodalo, before I let you go, so we've been seeing APC doing big campaigns and all of that. Are we expecting your campaigns to come out soon? I mean, the mega ones? I know you've walked around.
Yeah, we started campaigning way before anybody started campaigning. And we've campaigned, and we actually just kind of slowed down our campaigning when the protests, so as to observe with the protesters and respect the protesters' views. So yes, we will in the next few days go back to big campaigns. In the interim, we've been campaigning quietly. It's not every structure of campaign that has to be a big, massive campaign like the type you've been seeing on TV in the last few days, where people come on the podium and don't say actual truths, and don't say what they'll do for the people, but just keep throwing jabs at other people and not really talking about the suffering and the problems of the people and how they will solve those problems genuinely, But we'll go back to campaigning. And when we start campaigning, you'll see the difference, because we'll come and talk about the problems of our people, how we intend to solve the problems of our people, and how we intend to make life better for our people. And we won't talk about people. We won't talk about characters that, frankly.
Okay. Mr. Ighodalo, absolutely. This is, we still have about 20-something more days to the election. So we're going to be pulling in, and that time we'll be talking in details because everybody has the I will, the how. We're going to look at fiscal responsibility, fiscal performance, and all of that, and how you will navigate all of that.
I actually came to talk to you this evening, Jeffrey, thinking we'll talk about how, because
no, you've spoken on a couple of them.
Our manifesto just refers to the how. For everything we've put in the manifesto, the how is right beside it. So I'll do my guess. I'm happy to come back at another time, and I'll talk.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to say, Geoffrey, is this. Can you please ask all of the other candidates to come and tell you what they want to do for the people of Edo State and how they will achieve it?
Okay, maybe I'll cut
take them through the same kind of drill you're taking me through, and don't cut them slack. Do it fairly,
Okay.
Once you do that, I'm fine. So I'm ready to come back at any time, and I'll tell you the how. And you'll see how the how
not a problem.
And get to where we say we're going to get to. So, when we're all applying for this job, I think we should all be interrogated accordingly, fairly, equally, squarely.
Not its problem at all. We've extended our invitation. We hope they will oblige. And the reason why we had to go through a couple of things, not just your manifesto, is because it's politics and governance, and we must aggregate all of them because it's a different game, a ball game altogether. But we must thank you for coming through.
The issue of fiscal. Sorry, let me just cut you very quickly. The issue of fiscal that you were talking about. I just wanted to say something. Yes. You were talking about governance. If you're not running a first-class government that's transparent and that's accountable and that's well run, then your fiscals are going to be skewed. Okay.
Well, we're going to hold you to that if you win the election. But we wish you the very best, and all of you who are contesting the very best. Mr. Asue Ighodalo, governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the forthcoming September governorship elections in Edo State.
Thank you, sir. Have a good evening. Thanks. See you again soon.
All right. We will take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking with Mr. Tony Cole, the governorship candidate of the APC in the 2023 governorship election in Rivers State. We're going to talk oil and gas and Rivers politics. Join us again. Welcome back. Let's bring in my second guest, Mr. Tony Cole, the APC governorship candidate in Rivers State in the last election. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Mr. Cole, thank you for coming on the program and for your patience, sir.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Well, it was my senior brother on the line, so I had to be patient with him.
Absolutely. So I'm going to talk to you on two parts. The caps you wear competently. First, as a businessman, and second, as a politician. So let's start with the business element, which has to do with the oil and gas sector. I wish we had more time, but from what you're seeing play out in that sector, because a lot has been said, so I don't want to get to specifics. What are the keys that we're not tapping into from your experience that you think that we'll begin to look at? Because we've seen the government do a few things with the Dangote refinery, with the NNPCL and all of that. What is really missing for us to really achieve what we want to achieve? Because for the Nigerian, this is how sometimes we measure success. We don't have to queue on the road and we buy cheaper fuel.
First and foremost, I believe that the only way that you can begin to address the oil and gas sector is for you to put the pressure off the oil and gas sector. And it sounds like a paradox. Why there is so much difficulty is because the oil and gas sector continues to bear so much of the burden that Nigeria brings upon it. And so the only way that you can resolve it, and the only way that you can stop all of the problem, is that you must begin to address monetary policies in other sectors that will put less pressure on the foreign exchange and Naira.
Okay, let's go to the NNPCL. I want to guess that you've seen maybe their audited reports. 3.3 trillion Naira, an improvement from the 2-point-something trillion they posted net profit last year, the year before, that's 2022. But questions are being raised about how they fund their operations in terms of what economists call gearing ratio, maybe more on debt side than equity, because we're looking at defrayment from the federal government as to dividend payments so that they can meet some of their cash calls or cash obligation or cash flow. There's also the issue of the 6.8 billion that they said, look, that is not the true picture, but we are paying this small. So for you, looking at the NNPCL, again, that same question. In terms of repositioning, we've had postponement of the refineries. We've seen their books and our monies are going in, and we're not seeing as much result as it should be. So I'm trying to rush as much as possible. What's your take?
So, first and foremost, NNPC carries a huge burden when it comes to the issue of making sure that you have petroleum products out there for the masses. And as we speak, because there has been what you would call NNPC absorbing most of the costs, the true cost of petroleum products, you've already had so many discussions whether there is subsidy or not subsidy. So a lot of the earnings of NNPC is already going into that. And that, in essence, begins to affect other things. It will affect your cash calls. It will affect the ability of NNPC to do what it really needs to do, which is to be a producing, to be a developmental company, and so on and so forth. So NNPC is under a lot of pressure, and that pressure can be directly traced to the issue of importation of petroleum products and what you would call subsidy or no subsidy.
So we can see that NNPCL is proliferated across the ecosystem from all the streams, if you mention literally everywhere they are in. And it feels like some of the players, from the conversations we've had, they feel like this is more like an institutional monopoly that kicks them out of the space. I'm talking of Ipman, for instance, that I said there used to be a sharing quota formula where DAPMAN, of course, the depots, have a certain percentage of PMS being given to them, and they are more across the country. They should have been giving more that they used to be given, and now this is happening where perhaps they are giving less. And they are complaining that they have to buy at premium at depot because they can get the product quickly. But going to NNPCL to get the product, you will get it cheaper, but it's more expensive. It will take longer time. So when you're actually trying to sell, your profit is literally eroded given inflation. What can be done differently to ensure that we do our best that PMS prices will go down besides the fixing of the refinery, at least for now?
You know, Jeffrey, Ipman and many people who find themselves within the various value chain of the downstream will always have an issue and a problem as long as you don't have cost-reflective prices with PMS in the market. And the mere fact is that under current circumstance, it is impossible. Under current circumstance, it's impossible for that to be reflected. So the only institution today that can absorb the cost for the Nigerian people of PMS, as you see it at 600 or 700 naira at the pump price, is NNPC bringing it and giving it cheaper. And so Ipman cannot import directly and sell and use their storage as a throughput facility outside of NNPC, because then you will be hitting the streets at over 1,200 naira per liter. And it's just not tenable today. So you are not going to have a freedom to set prices at real parity. And as long as that is the case, then the Ipmans and all the other independent marketers along the chain will have to go through NNPC. It's the only way. It's the only game in town.
All right, Mr. Cole, as we to wind down, let's now get to politics. And this conversation about NNPCL, the oil refinery, and all of the gamut of the oil and gas sector is complicated, and a single show will not solve it. So let's talk about politics before we begin to wrap up. And that has to do with River State, where you're from. My first question is very
and you think politics is less complicated than NPCL?
I'm not saying it is less complicated. I'm just saying the show is called Politics Today. So let's stay within politics. So let's talk about who you recognize. Let's talk about who you recognize as the leader. As the chairman of the APC. The reason I ask, in the state, the courts had reinstated Emeka Beke. But Mr. Tony Okocha still says, look, yes, we appeal and all of that, but I'm still in charge. And it feels like maybe the National Working Committee, maybe pandering, people are speculating, pandering towards Emeka Beke. So, first question, who do you recognize as the chairman of the party in your books?
I think that's a very simple no-brainer. Emeka Beke is the authentic, court-recognized, and true APC chairman of Rivers State. Always was and remains to be the same.
So let's begin to break it down. Emeka Beke had come out to say, Amewule and his group that defected, you're accountable to the APC. The PDP lawyer had come to say, you're still a member of the PDP. Tony Okocha, who held as caretaker chairman, sees Nyesom Wike, the FCT minister, who is a member of the APC, as the leader of the party in the state. What do you make of this? I don't know, is it absurdity in that space? How are you interpreting it and how are you navigating around it? Because you're a major stakeholder.
Absolutely. And I think unfortunately, Rivers State politics has caused so much confusion in the Nigerian polity today. I've always said first and foremost that I have absolutely no problem with the president appointing anybody from any party into his cabinet. No problem. But that is where it begins and it ends. The Honorable Minister is an authentic member of PDP and has no business with APC in Rivers State. Tony Okocha works for, reports to, and is a member of the Wike family. And he is not and cannot speak for APC in Rivers State. And so at the end of the day, when all the dust is settled, we will take a look and we will see the clear lines of it. Until the next election, party elections in Rivers State, where APC Rivers State will now determine who the next chairman is. The APC government of Emeka Beke, or chairmanship of Emeka Beke, remains sacrosanct, and that's the only way it is. Any other thing is just seed for confusion.
I do not want to say you're the spokesperson of former Governor Rotimi Amechi, also a former minister, but I know you are his ally. We're wondering why, in the midst of all of this, he's quite silent about what is going on within his own party. I guess that you recognize him as the leader of the party. Correct me if I'm wrong. And why is he silent?
I think Rotimi Amechi made a point almost 2 years ago that he was going to remain silent and allow people, because at first we were accused from all shades of blue, gray, white, black, that it was Rotimi Amechi that was doing this and doing that. And he decided that, you know what, Tony and others who are there, Emeka Beke and all, you guys go, I've done my race, I've done my own time and all of that, you go and make the best of it. And so he has chosen to be quiet. Then people began to call him, why are you so quiet? Come and speak. And he said, no, I'm not speaking. I've done my bit. You are all independent. You are adults. You are grown. You have your money. You have your time. You have your party cards. You have your own vision. Go and run the party. And that's exactly what we are doing. So Rotimi Amechi has his part. He's doing what he has to do. He's chosen to go to school, keep quiet, and watch Nigerian polity and politics run. And we do our own part.
So are we saying by chance in the future, 2027, we're going to see Tony Cole back on the ballot? And why, if you intend to run again?
You know, I've never ever hidden that my entry into politics for me is I gave myself first 20 years as a minimum, of which I've done 6. There's still 14 years to go. So I'm not going anywhere. Nobody is sending me anywhere. As far as Nigerian politics is concerned, and the vision that I have for this Nigerian politics and what we will achieve, it's a long-term game. Nobody is sending me anywhere. We're here and we're fighting this all the way to the end.
All right, Mr. Cole, so last question. How do you intend to navigate what we're seeing now if this holds till tomorrow? Tomorrow being 2027, Wike Okocha, one element of that party, Amechi, Tony Cole, one element of the party, Magnus Abe. How do you want to navigate through all of this?
You know, it's simple. That's what politics is about. The more the merrier. At the end of the day, as you get into 2025, 2026, the dice will begin to be clear. who is on what side, who is taking what position, and the people at the end of the day will choose. And I think if there's one thing that Rivers State has become clear, that's for the people of Rivers State. It's now clearer and clearer that they are just fed up of the type of politics that they've seen thus far, and that they want something different. And I think that's what we are seeing in Nigeria, something different. So 2027 is going to begin to show a clarity that there must be a different type of politics that will be on the table, and we'll be there to make sure that that is the case.
Mr. Cole, I must thank you for your brevity. In terms of, William Shakespeare said, brevity is the soul of wit. You're straight to your answers as much as possible. Tony Cole, co-founder Sahara Group, as well as the APC governorship candidate. In the last election, he said he's going to run again. So we're looking at what is going to play out in the future. I must thank you, sir, for coming on the program. Well, that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and, of course, your usual company. I'm Jeffrey Ozon. Good night.